Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Power Up Living with Galea, the show for seekers and doers looking for more freedom, flexibility, and fun in life and business. Let's get energized, get motivated, and get into action. It's time to power up, tune into the possibilities, and amplify your life. Hi, everyone. This is Kelly, and today we are giving you permission to get naked. Oh, this should be a good one, huh? Now, before I introduce our guest and we get ready to bear all, I wanted to share some information that's going to help you to feel good and to look good. It's the Creativity and Wellness Summit, which starts next week, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of this one-of-its-kind online event that's hosted by my friend Creelan Peters. To learn more and sign up for the summit, go to creativityandwellnesssummit.com. All right, so it's permission to get naked time, and I'm excited to welcome to the show Gorrell, who provides solutions to move people forward and upward, both personally and professionally. And Lori believes that given the proper tools and guidance, you can have a better experience doing life. Work can be done with more clarity, projects completed with more focus, and balance will come more naturally, and all of this is done with more ease. Lori is a certified professional coach with the International Coach Federation and a soft skills trainer using top-notch programs such as the Everything Disc suite of products. She's a licensed trainer for the internationally acclaimed Academy for Coaching Excellence, providing business and community leaders with coaching skills to take their professional development to the next level. So, Lori, I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm curious, too, so do you help these leaders in these different professional areas? Do you help them to get naked, too?
You know, I use a little different language, but ultimately it all comes down to getting naked.
So, okay, we're jumping right in and we're getting naked today. Why are we talking about getting naked, especially on a radio show?
Well, if I said it was permission to be vulnerable, no one would have tuned in. So,
right.
So it is, naked is just the most ultimate way to be vulnerable. And it creates a great metaphor for what we need to do when we're ready to take action and make changes.
Yeah, I really like this metaphor, and it sprung into my mind like, okay, are we going to approach this like strip poker where something's on the line and we're kind of like removing one item at a time, or are we just like jumping right in wholeheartedly and say, all right, bear it all?
That's an awesome question because it's all about trust. And so if you're playing strip poker with a bunch of strangers, one piece at a time is probably way more comfortable. And yet if you have a lot of trust with someone or a group, it might as well just bear it all and go for it. So that's a great question. I hadn't thought of it that way, but perfect.
Okay, good. So we have created a very trusting space, and everyone knows that the show is about helping people to see the possibilities and options out there, especially if they're feeling stuck or they're in a place of fear. So let's talk a little bit, Lori, about, what are some of the excuses that we might be making to avoid getting naked or being vulnerable in the first place and really going for the things that we want in our lives?
Well, the conversations are vast as to why we don't do something. And sometimes it's just being vague. They can't even clarify why they're not doing something, and that's a whole conversation in itself that holds us back. But they're conversations. It's the self-limiting conversations that hold us back from going for what we want. We can be resigned that it's just never going to get any better, so why even try? Or what are the neighbors going to think? Imagine getting naked in your backyard. What are the neighbors going to think? Same thing as if they go for something that's big for them. You compare yourself to others. Concern what others are going to think of you. It's being vulnerable, and that's scary. So we have just oodles of conversations that can keep us from moving forward. We hit this invisible wall, and instead of taking it over the wall, we turn around.
Yeah, there's so many of these excuses that we make, right? Or just the stories that we've grown accustomed to telling ourselves.
Exactly.
So what would you suggest that someone does, maybe if they're having a hard time, like being vague, like you said, they really can't say why they're not moving forward, or they're not trying to see beyond their current situation that they don't like, that they want to change. What do you suggest that they do to kind of get started and get in touch with those limiting beliefs or those fears or just those excuses that they're so used to making?
I think the very first thing is deciding if they are willing to look, willing to be vulnerable enough to look inside to see what it is. That's the very first step. Are you willing to see what it is? Are you willing to make changes? And it kind of opens the space up. If you're willing to see what it is and to get pretty clear on what's important to you, then you have a place to focus your action. But until you have the willingness and the clarity, there's no place to go. So it is asking for support to help find a way to be clear what's important to me, and someone to walk them through the process of what does that look like.
Okay.
What does it look like to know what's important? There's coaches, but there's also, friends out there that can help you really take a look, somebody that knows you well and you're willing to bear it all to them. Or you can build trust with a stranger to help you see maybe something that you can't see for yourself. And that's really where the permission comes in, because we often look to someone else for the green light. If you consider when you've had a really interesting idea and you're really not sure if you're going to do it, you ask friends, "Can I do this? Is this worth it?" And we need somebody else to give us permission. And sometimes that's easiest when it's an outsider.
Yeah, I so agree with that, because, you think about some of the most critical decisions you've made in your life, or where it just seemed like, everything is on the line, and you go around gathering information or talking with friends and getting people to weigh in and give their opinions, and it seems like that process is almost so excruciating that the moment that you actually make that decision, everything becomes so much easier.
Yeah, when you decide that you're willing to take the steps. And sometimes when we ask too many people their thoughts and opinions, it really stirs up more of those conversations why we shouldn't or couldn't do something.
Yeah.
And it just keeps us swinging on the vine saying, well, maybe I should or maybe I can't. And we give ourselves all of those great reasons. And, since it's our self-limiting conversations, they're brilliant. They speak to every experience we've ever had and everything we've ever witnessed, and we can make it a pretty compelling conversation to not move forward.
Lori, I just read something today. It's actually in the book of somebody I'm having on the show in a few weeks, but it said something to the effect of, people will always try to keep you on the beaten path when you're trying to break free. And I thought, how true is that, right? So the more we get people to weigh in, sometimes it can really sort of put handcuffs on us and keep us from moving forward.
And I call that dancing. We start dancing with someone else's self-limiting conversations because they can't see the potential and possibility for themselves. And so when we have an idea, they use their conversations on us to hold us back. So sometimes we walk right into something we weren't looking for because they are maybe on the verge of wanting to change themselves and don't know how.
Okay. So, Lori, I've found it really helpful in the past, when I'm trying to think of what are these excuses, that you start paying attention to the language that you're using, the conversations you're having with friends. What are you sort of sick of yourself saying sometimes? I mean, that's how it comes to me generally. Or just writing things down, like, here are my fears. So what are some techniques you would suggest to somebody who is willing to take a look at this and be vulnerable enough, get some help, but maybe wants to do some internal processing, some self-work first before they reach out and are able then to articulate to somebody what they're trying to get support with?
Right. I love your idea of writing it down and looking first at those conversations that you hear over and over, and it's like, darn, I'm done with that. How many times do we say we don't have enough time? or I can't do it because I don't have enough money. Those stories get old, but they're very familiar, so we keep going back to them. What will the neighbor say? Or a similar conversation of comparison or paranoia. Or when you fall into a mode of thinking no one appreciates you, no one's going to get it anyway. But listening to also the signs your body's giving you. If you're getting uptight, if a conversation you're having with yourself is giving you stomach flip-flops, or you're wearing your shoulders as earrings, or you're getting extremely nervous about something, to pay attention to that, because those are the signs of one of these self-limiting conversations. It is something getting in our way of moving forward. And to take note of when that's happening and the circumstances in which it's happening. So when you're writing it down, it's not just the conversation, but what are the circumstances that you're in that you're having the conversation, and it really helps to get underneath it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So why is it that we do this? So, what are the top reasons that we just don't like to be vulnerable? We don't want to get naked. Even if someone's giving us permission, we're just resisting it.
Because of old patterns. It has not been comfortable before, and it takes a while to build trust. Trust is the piece about getting naked, and sometimes it comes quickly, and sometimes it takes a while to build because you're dismantling all of those brilliant conversations you've been having for so long that were so compelling, and it takes a while to get underneath them and break them down and see them for what they are, see if those conversations are useful anymore. Sometimes it's time to get rid of the conversation, and you can finally see that and take those steps. So it's paying attention to what you're hearing, when you're hearing it, and deciding if that's working for you anymore.
Yeah, and I'm guessing if you're listening today and you're wanting to have permission in a way and change your life, then probably things aren't working so much for you anymore, at least in one area, and that's why we talk about a powered-up life is not just about your career or business. It encompasses, your finances, relationships, how you feel physically, so your health, your nutrition, how you project that out to the world, so, fashion and style and things like that too, and what your environment is, because I think that has a huge, huge impact on us.
It's huge. And sometimes when people get to that place of saying, this isn't working for me anymore, and instead of experiencing some ease to get through that, they take the bulldozer to it, and then they don't like the results so well. The time where you're just like, I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to make it now, and maybe you're in a job, and I'm just going to walk out, I am done. That bulldozer effect often doesn't leave you with the results that you want.
Yeah, and I think, Laura, that was one of the first conversations we had, too, and I'm so glad that you brought up as that bulldozer, because I think that's both, I talked to you about, I felt like I crashed and burned out of corporate, and you had a similar experience. So if you're listening in today, take our advice here. Maybe this bulldozer approach is not the best thing.
It's not. There is no ease with a bulldozer.
No.
It's just big and hard and doesn't work. Yes.
It is. So I know that you are here today and can help give us some of the support, or at least get people moving in the right direction, maybe helping them to get onto this path. So tell us about how our audience could get in touch with you today, and I understand you have some exciting new things coming up too.
I do. You can reach me at my office line, 440-548-2079, or I have ways to contact me through my website, and that is upwardsolutionscc.com. The CC is for coaching and consulting. And would love to talk to people more about where they are and what the conversations are that are getting in their way. Because even getting naked how many times have you left the house and you didn't have your phone and you said you felt naked because you didn't have your phone? So vulnerability comes in a bunch of different ways. I was taking note, getting ready for this conversation, is thinking all the different ways I have felt vulnerable in the past several days. So I just started taking note last Friday and writing down all the times. And as much as we dislike the thought of being vulnerable, it happens so frequently, and we're not paying attention to how successful we are coming through on the other side. We make it through leaving our phone behind. We can make it through a Skype conversation at 6 in the morning if we need to, when we're concerned how somebody's going to think we look. Talk about being vulnerable. And one thing that came up for me was the opportunity to potentially have a conversation with a financial planner. Holy smokes. Besides being naked, telling somebody about your money, vulnerable. People would much rather talk about sex than about money. So all of these opportunities to be vulnerable and experience that change. So it doesn't have to be huge and earth-shattering to want to run an idea past someone and see if this is something that's going to continue to get in your way or if it's time to release it. So, reaching out is a great idea. Thanks for giving me the space to say that. The new thing that I have coming up is a program for teams, and this could be boardroom teams, and it is really focused on workplace teams where people come together collectively to produce results. And the program's called The 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team, and it is the power of the assessment tool called DISC, along with the brilliance of Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it is a remarkable tool for companies to use for building a team, a really effective team, and understanding that that can be their secret sauce, their competitive advantage to have a really well-functioning team. And it's also expensive to not have a good team, a team that's dysfunctional. So, the premise of the program is looking at your current state of affairs. How is this team really doing from the perspective of the team members? And based on all of the people that are on the team, what are the weaknesses and the strengths? But the whole foundation, and it fits really perfectly here, the whole foundation of this work is trust. It's the 5 behaviors, and the first behavior is trust, and it's the biggest one, and it's a really rich conversation for a workplace environment because it's not trust that somebody's going to do what they said they were going to do. It is building to the trust that you can say, I made a mistake and let's get through it, or let's look at something a different way, and trust that what you say is not going to be taken personally. It's just such a huge piece, and I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity. But not all companies, not all teams are ready for that kind of big work because it's deep. It's being willing to be vulnerable, and that's why I said it's just so perfect to share today. It's an opportunity to be vulnerable and get naked with your coworkers.
Well, I love it, Lori. I just have chills because I'm thinking of people immediately who need this help. And I'm sure all of us, whether we're self-employed, working for someone else, are in a dysfunctional setting or not, we know of such things in groups that need help. So I would encourage you to get in touch with Lori. Again, her phone number is 440-548-2079, or you can go check her out at her website, which is Upward Solutions CC for coachingandconsulting.com. All right, Lori, let's keep going with this conversation because I really want to hear more around what was so fascinating to me was in your bio about talking about doing life. That so resonated with me. So I'd like to hear more about that, and especially in context of people feeling vulnerable, trying to build that trust and develop that trust, and to be aware of their excuses and get out in front of those.
Yeah, it's the doing life with more ease really comes from the premise of living from the inside out. It is one of my key beliefs, the place that took me to being a coach in the first place, to help people to know their very best, most enduring qualities and live from that place rather than from this outer shell of who we pretend we are, or even from one layer closer of who we're afraid we are, but coming from that core place of who we really are and knowing that about ourselves. so that we can operate in such an authentic way. And from those, yes?
Go ahead. I was going to say what you just said, too, about who we're afraid we are.
Yeah.
That really hit me. And I think that's getting back to those fears, right, and those excuses, is that so many of us know we're here to be doing a lot more, something much bigger than we are currently doing, because we're playing it safe. So we're kind of afraid of the person that we know we really are.
Yes. I'm so glad that you picked up on that. And it is. It's exactly those fears. Or we're afraid that we are the person that maybe somebody 20 years ago told us we were. We got some feedback we didn't like, and we carry that around, and we're afraid that we are that person, somebody's interpretation of us, and that's not who we are. We have this core place to come from that when you do that from the inside out, everything else in life comes. It is that clarity. You're able to see more clearly if you're coming from the inside and from your strengths and from that place of authenticity. You can get clear. You're able to see where to focus your energy. But if we're living in that who we pretend we are, there's no space for us to go in and see who that is, or see where we want to go and see what's really, truly important to us.
So, Lori, I just want to make a quick comment because we actually have some people calling in, and because the show goes by so quickly, we don't normally take on-air callers. So if you are listening in right now, I think we're really striking a chord here with some people. I'm so sorry we can't take your call or your question now, but please feel free to go to powerupliving.com, go to the radio show page, and you'll see there a place where you can send in your comments or questions, and we'll make sure that Lori gets those for you, okay? All right. So, Lori, I want to find out, too, because some people make it seem so easy, right? They're in this groove. They're living their lives. They seem comfortable just putting it all out there. They're bearing it all. Why is that? And, and just to, paraphrase the Harry Met Sally, how do I have what they're having, right?
Well, first it is most of those people have learned some tools and skills along the way. Mm-hmm. They've worked on it, so it just appears that they're doing it with more ease. And the key part that they know is they know that there are going to be obstacles. And so they're already willing to work through whatever comes in their way rather than turning around when something comes up. Mm-hmm. So they know there's going to be obstacles, and they're like, okay, it's going to come. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be because I know it's unpredictable, but there's going to be something, and I'm willing to work through that because I really want to get to this goal, to create this result, to create this life that I love, and I'm willing to go there. So they know there's going to be obstacles, and they also know that plan A very rarely happens. That they're going to need a plan B, C, and D. And they're also, if you really look, they are masterful at getting support. They create teams of advisors, of trusted advisors that they can get naked with, and they listen really well to the support that they get. And that's why it might seem that that it's easy, but what it is they're doing it with more ease. It's not that it's easy. They've just decided to do it with more ease.
Yeah, it's back to that decision, right?
It is.
So being willing to do it and deciding to do it and moving forward.
Without a bulldozer. and, and I do want to provide, I promised that I would reveal some tips for moving forward, and this is a perfect place to give that because when I say don't do the bulldozer, because sometimes that seems like the only way, and to experience more ease, it's really breaking it down into just a couple of steps. And one is, the first part is breaking it down into a very small step, one that's so small that you can't not take it, so that you are moving forward. Even if it feels at a snail's pace, it is forward. So when one of those conversations is coming up, the self-limiting conversations of why you can't, shouldn't, or couldn't possibly do something, Instead, ask yourself if it would be more interesting to take one small step toward creating that result that you want to produce. Just one small step. And because, 3 small steps a day is a whole whopping 90 steps a month. That's some progress.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
and like you're saying, too, those of us who bulldozed our way out, we didn't have the small steps. We had I've got to quit my job, or I have to leave this environment behind.
Yeah, it was
We
overwhelming.
didn't necessarily break it down. Yeah, totally overwhelming.
Yeah. And to break it down, bring some more ease. The other part is getting support, right? We talked about being good at, these people are really good at getting support and listening, and part of that is being vulnerable so that you can hear what they might be seeing for you or with you. And the key piece here is the final step to bringing more ease is celebrating the steps that you're taking. Even that one that you thought was a snail's pace, to acknowledge that you have taken that step. Because the alternative was not taking the step or turning around completely. So acknowledging yourself that, yes, I did that and I might try one more. And to continue that acknowledgement. I'm working with an author right now, and I had the privilege of reminding her to celebrate that she has written books. She has published books, and she wasn't celebrating that. The focus was completely on she didn't have an agent for her current book.
Mm-hmm.
But
we don't stop and pat ourselves on the back, right? We're so tough on ourselves, and
we're just checking it off, moving on, and it feels like that bulldozer. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, just small, sweet steps, getting support, and really acknowledging yourself and celebrating what you do.
So, Lori, I'm curious because that getting support piece, I think especially for those who maybe came out of a very large institutional type of settings where, there's a lot of politics going on, you don't want to look bad, and you sometimes struggle with, admitting the things you don't know or asking for help because you're not encouraged very many times to hey, ask a question, ask for help, let me know if you need something. Mm-hmm. So what would you suggest, how can we start to become more comfortable in getting support and reaching out for help?
Finding some way to have a trusted advisor. Some companies, and it might not be obvious, but many companies have people that are willing to mentor others. And it is asking a couple of good questions to the right people. Maybe it's the HR department, or maybe it's someone you see that is very empowering, and you might say, how can I get some of that from you? So it could be right within that same organization. It could be reaching out to a coach or consultant outside of the workplace. And there's lots of self-help areas, but often that support of another person to help you see something differently, because we've established that what's going on right now isn't working. So it's wanting to make some change, and sometimes we need someone else to help us see what that might be.
Oh, so true. And, I think that happens to a lot of people who are self-employed and entrepreneurs as well, is that you get so bogged down in what you're doing and you think, well, the people I would want to reach out to, they're so busy and I don't want to ask them. But yourself, if someone asked you, you'd drop everything and help them. And so I just want to encourage you today, if you're listening in, whether you're employed by somebody else or you're out there doing your thing, that it's okay. And I'm hitting this one so hard because this is an area that I have struggled with of my professional life as well. So I appreciate you sharing those thoughts with us, Lori.
Yeah, it's amazing. You said people will drop anything, to offer support. That's like my favorite thing. It's like my whole guiding principle is supporting people, whether through the coaching or someone just even needing something quickly that they call me. People love to support one another, and we deny them the opportunity and the gift of giving if we don't ask for it.
Very well said, and a great place to end. So, Lori, let us know one more time where we can go and get some support from you. How do we reach you?
Thank you, Kelly. It's upwardsolutionscc.com or 440-548-2079.
And one more time, what is the new training that's coming up?
The 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team. Fantastic program.
Perfect. And you have more about that on your site too, right?
It's coming on the site. It's so new. It's not on the site yet. So that I want to talk to people in person. Brand new.
Okay, perfect. So hot off the presses, everyone. Go and get in touch with Lori, 440-548-2079 or upwardsolutions.cc.com. Thank you so much, Lori. It's been fun getting naked with you today.
Thanks, Kelly. It was fun being here with you.
Thanks for joining us for the Power Up Living Show with Kelly Galea. For more resources and tips to help you experience more freedom, flexibility, and fun in life and business, visit powerupliving.com.